Welcome to another edition of What the Fatah. Today I'd like to touch on a tragedy of India, which turned into a triumph, but it took good 500 years of torment. And even today, as I walk past the small place where Ram was born, thousands of years ago, it still was guarded by, I would say, thousands of troops, many of them women looking absolutely, firm in their resolve to ensure that nobody attacked that place. And this is what was disturbing. Imagine your God being in a prison cell, because that's the effect I got. Because a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, so it doesn't mean that much for me. But if I'm a Hindustani Muslim and I've come to India or converted from Hinduism to Islam, for me that place should be sacred. But it wasn't. Some of you might recall that in 2005, or perhaps it was 2006, 5 or 6 Islamic terrorists tried to get in, all got killed, but they tried to blow up the structure that was set up to remember the presence of Lord Rama. What is it that makes people so angry about other people is what's stunning. Imagine you migrate to the United States of America and even after multiple generations, you simply have a hatred for the US Congress, its Constitution, its founding fathers. Can you imagine that? That you go to France and you simply reject the gains of the French Revolution, or you go to Africa and hate black people. That's what the Afrikaners do, and that's what was white minority rule. But here in India, where 80% of the population, much more than that, believes in Hinduism, Sanatan Dharam, that's what their belief system for thousands of years, and all they want is the birthplace of who they consider their God to be recognized as such. But no. Unfortunately, a large number of my community, that is Muslims, have a deep desire to ensure that that place would never be recognized as Ramjanambhumi, or the birthplace of Ram. This went on for over 500 years. And many people tell me, why do we want to have a place like this when it was discovered or taken over after destruction of a mosque? And when I argue that, well, the mosque was built over the place, that is Ram's birthplace, they dispute it, irrespective of whether they dispute it or not. My concern is that a mosque was built on a land that wasn't owned by that fella. And I'm talking of Babur, who Indians are taught was their emperor. He wasn't. He came from Uzbekistan, came here, killed a lot of people, including fellow Muslims, defeated Lodi, and then established a mosque called Babri Mosque. Suppose there was no Janambhumi over there. What right did Babur have to take land and build a mosque over there? Did he buy it? No. Did he have municipal permission? No. Did he have the government's authority? No. Did he come on a visa? No. Did he have a passport? Absolutely not. He came to plunder the lands east of the Sindhu, east of what we call today the Indus River. He looted, plundered, raped the country and went away and left behind a mosque. Irrespective of where that mosque was, I wouldn't accept it. Just because a murderer and a plunderer builds a mosque and belongs to my faith, I am supposed to honor that place? No, I won't. And for anyone who said that the destruction of the mosque was Babri Mosque was a great insult to Muslims. I remember I was in Saudi Arabia at the time. The Saudis have destroyed countless mosques to expand the commercial viability of the Hajj. They made it into a Dallas. There are huge towers built all around. They cut away even the mountains, Safa and Marwa, to build a palace for King Khalid. Nobody in India ever protested that. Surely Mecca, the birthplace of Islam, the most sacred mosque, the house of Prophet Muhammad, could be razed. And no one in UP or Bihar or Patna or wherever, in the south, in Kerala or Kashmir, wherever Indian Muslims live, not a person ever demonstrated outside the Saudi embassy. Now, if you haven't done that, you have no ground to protest over the destruction of a mosque built on Indian land by an invader. Is that too complicated an issue? It shouldn't be. As a Muslim, I'm required never to criticize the gods of another religion. Yet, every Friday, we do that. If you're a Muslim and I'm a Muslim, you and I both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what we say about Qawm al-Kafirin. So, Babur comes here, builds that mosque is gone, and for almost 500 years this tussle continues. And in the 70 years since India became independent, if it was not a democracy, if it was not a government that compromised every action so as not to displease its Muslim minority or appease them, because 1/3 of the country had been cut off from this historic land. First time ever in human history, India was amputated. And instead of being angry at that creation, we were angry that how dare Hindus place statues of Lord Ram, who they consider Ram himself. We were mocking them and we were laughing at them. Even when we surround ourselves and go around stone structures ourselves, or stone manufactured devils, the three ones that we throw stones at. We have no doubt as to our piety, and yet we mock someone's God. When I went through those 3 kilometers of cage after cage, barbed wire after barbed wire, thousands of, I think they were not Indian Army soldiers, they were CPRF soldiers, on the guard with guns, not to speak of the hundreds of monkeys that scamper all around, and the beautiful peacock that stands guard right in front of the entrance to where Lord Ram resides. But he resides in a prison. It's true. Lord Ram, the god of Hindus, is today living in a prison cell. And you know why? Because of the fear that idiotic, irresponsible, extremist Muslims might attack that place. And it's not that it hasn't been attacked. Of course, we all know the 1992 destruction of the Babri Mosque. I would have joined them because I refuse to go and honor a mosque that has been built over somebody else's temple. I simply find that ethically, morally reprehensible, irrespective of any religion. I can't come to your house, destroy it, and build my own over it. And now, after the Supreme Court case, the resolution of the problem, we know that a Muslim archaeologist has confirmed, K.K. Muhammad is his name, who confirmed the authenticity of the ancient beliefs that this is where Lord Ram was born and this is where his temple was before Babur came and destroyed it. And when I walked through those narrow cages, round and round, and saw the faces of hundreds and hundreds of people from all over India who walk and come sometimes in tatters, usually poor, very poor, and go to meet their God who is behind barbed wires and almost like a prison. It makes me so angry at what we have done, lacking compassion. And as I read through the Supreme Court report and the history, I've got a few books over here as well. Narasimha Rao's book, published only after he passed away. I recognize that there were moments where Muslims could have had the Babri Mosque and the Hindus were quite happy to have a separate temple. But no, this wasn't allowed. We Muslims went to the courts to shut down the construction of a temple whose base I saw, whose base structure is still constructed, but during Rajiv Gandhi's time, it was suspended. What would have happened if we Muslims had been who we say we are? Representatives of a religion of peace and of a prophet who said that he could only smell fragrance coming from the land of Hind, or whose descendants and progeny were given refuge in Hindustan by Raja Dahir, allowed to stay here when the Arabs wanted to slaughter the family of Prophet Muhammad. I don't want to go into history, but many Hindus don't know that the earliest people who became the caliphs, the Umayyads in Damascus, were hunting for the progeny of the very prophet they professed to follow. It's a moral, ethical tragedy of Islam and Muslims that we simply don't recognize. And so we take out our anger on others that Islam is in danger. My brothers and sisters, Islam is in danger because we have lost our humanity. We Muslims should be standing up and saying, we will not allow Lord Ram to live in a prison cell behind barbed wires and armed soldiers. What an indictment of our community that the Indian government and the 80% majority of this country have to fear that one of our nut bars is going to attack that place. I'm sure all of you remember the 2005 attack by Lashkar-e-Tayyiba. 5 jihadis enter the place, act as if they were Hindu pilgrims, amalgamated, bring the jeep inside, blow it up. They all die in the process. Do you think people forget these things? That in the land of the Hindus, the Hindu god is their enemy. It's like going to England and saying that Queen Elizabeth is my enemy. Well, nobody forced you to go there. Go across, go live in Iceland. Norway would take you. But for heaven's sake, don't go to a place that you hate or want to turn it into, well, England is turning into Londonistan. You now have a Pakistani ancestry mayor over there. So, things are happening. But if we do not, and specifically Indian Muslims, understand the pain we have inflicted on those who hosted us, जो हमारे मेज़बान थे, जिनके यहाँ हमारे पैगंबर की औलादें मेहमान थीं, उनके मंदिरों को आप अटैक कर रहे हैं। वो भी Ramjanambhumi. And before you start alleging that, oh, Tarek Fatah to bhakti ho gaya hai, sangi hai, have some compassion and pity in your own self. Would you do that to your father's grave? Would you allow somebody to attack Mecca? Well, I'm sorry. The Saudis did attack Mecca. What did we do in return? We burnt the American embassy in Islamabad. We are known for being irrational. Otherwise, 500,000 Muslims would not be dying in Syria. Let's ask for forgiveness from India's Hindu community and forgiveness from Lord Ram for mistreating his birthplace and making a carnage that should never have happened. At least now we have peace. I hope the military feels safe to withdraw and that the God of the Hindus is allowed to exist free so he and his people can meet eye to eye. Don't make fun of Hindu statues because we have a few of our own that we should be laughing at. Thank you very much. Namaskar. Jai Hind.